Alrighty. Well, Matt and I have been here before, but Rob, this is your first time on the podcast, or at least live on the pod. We're recorded on the podcast.
This is my first time. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, why don't you give yourself a little bit of an introduction? A little synopsis.
I'm Rob from Indiana, scripted Overland, and I absolutely hate introducing myself. I've been overlanding for a while back before we even called it overlanding, car camping, getting out, traveling, seeing places, staying all night, coming home, back in the good old days. Pick up trucks, camper shells.
Good deal. Rob just recently became an admin, moderator, admin for us. So he's been helping a lot this year. So I figured this made sense. So thank you for stepping up for that.
You're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity.
So cool. All right. Well, that being said, the topic of today is to recap the West Virginia trip, or Appalachia trip. So we'll kind of briefly set the tone. It was about 1,000 miles in about 10 days. So the average was about 100 miles a day, but we did more than that some days and less than that other days. So it just depends.
A lot less than that some days.
Oh yeah, we didn't move some days. It's what it is. I'm trying to think. So mostly forest roads, but a good, some good trails in there as well. And then obviously Matt here, he had the boogie about day three for other arrangements, but he got to see some of it at least. So
definitely enough to make me want to go back.
There is so much down there to explore. It's crazy.
It's beautiful because I think Matt Echo, he said it's like a cheat code. I literally can point the camera and take it, and it's a good picture.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. So, and then some key moments for me were the having the entire town, basically pull together and get Rob back on the road. And then we also met a character of a restaurant owner that day. That was interesting. We'll touch on that later. And then then Potts Mountain, I heard it was amazing. So we'll let Rob touch on that.
Was amazing. That's
good deal.
That's definitely, as Marcus called it, a bucket list item. And I can see why. Description doesn't do it justice. YouTube videos don't do it justice. It is an amazing trail.
It really is. And that entire area is just awesome in general. So you can only imagine what else is tucked away in there. And then the last key moment for me was the drunken karaoke on top of the mountain in the rain.
I think I may have sold a few speakers for JBL that day.
I think you did.
I should get sponsored by them.
Yes.
Rob Turner and his Captain Morgan.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that and Mary going full ham on the mic.
We turned a washout of a day into a blast.
Oh my gosh.
It was almost a washout too. We had water running through because
the water was coming up from the ground.
Yes.
So
and we were on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
If you remember, I had to put my camera tripod up in my rooftop tent because the water was so heavy and so fast that it was sagging the roof nest. Thankfully, I didn't have any water intrusion, but using your camera tripod to keep a rooftop tent up in driving rain was interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was it could have been worse, but not a whole lot worse. So, but we made it work. We stayed relatively dry.
Broomstick.
Broomstick. Could have worked also. Yeah. Didn't have a broom with me though, so tripod it was.
Oh, well, all right. So I guess we'll kind of start the recap, I guess, then. So it was, I think it was 9 or 10 rigs. I can't remember. I mean, like, let me read real quick through my list here. So we had Rob and Mary in the Xterra, which is one. Rob and Sherry, not to be confused, in the Witch Doctor, the JKU. Kyle and Dev in the Tundra / Tundi. Matt in the Tundra / Bertha. Myself in the Tacoma. Jake in the Frontier. Marcus in the XJ / Ramona. Rick Monk in the other taco, but his name is Mataco. We had Chris in the TJ, and then Kenna. So yeah, we had 5. We had 10. We had 10 rigs. So yeah. So Rob, who did you convoy in with, or did you convoy in with anybody?
Me, Rob, or him, Rob?
Well, that's Matt.
Never mind.
Mark.
See,
How many White Russians have you had?
Just the one.
Okay, that's fair. Well,
No,
cheers.
it was just us.
Was anybody there by the time you got there?
We were. I think somebody else was.
Yeah, I can't keep. Was it Rick? Maybe.
Rick, I think, was at the waterfall, so he
Yeah.
might have been there first.
Yeah.
We rolled in pretty early, and Marcus was there too already.
Well, so yeah, I mean, we were there.
Chris may have been there too.
Yeah, Marcus got there after us.
Yeah, we were there probably like the second or third to last, I want to say.
Thinking
Yeah.
Kyle and Devin, yeah.
Yes,
And
was
Jake
there when
Jake
we
was
got
behind us, and I think Rob and Mary maybe.
Kenna was also behind us.
Oh, that's right. She got caught up. That's right. I remember that now.
Mhm.
Because we went straight to, well, we didn't go straight to the Hellbender restaurant, but we dropped your trailer off and then went to Hellbender.
Mhm.
But that was most of the crew already there. Speaking of which, great freaking burritos at that place, by the way. So
Serving size was
very good burritos.
yeah, as Matt said, the serving size was
It's
great.
As big as your head.
I think I struggled to finish mine off. I don't think I ate until dinner the following day.
And that was in Davis, not Thomas, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. So yeah, so day 1, well, actually we'll call that day 0 because it's kind of the roll-in day. We were at Blackwater Falls State Park Campground. And you know, I think, yeah, that kind of covers the convoy. And Matt and I obviously convoyed in. We met up in, oh gosh, where was that? Portsmouth area?
Somewhere in southeastern Ohio.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. We rolled, we had some interesting tail riders behind us for a minute. But you know, nothing too crazy. So it wasn't, it was pretty low key there. I'm trying to think. Yeah, then we all went to Hellbenders. We all came back to camp. Trying to think, did anything else happen other than us drinking around the fire?
Yeah, there wasn't much that night.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good time though. I mean, always is. There's only so many stories and stuff going around the fire. So, I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's about it for day 0. So, day 1 was good. We got Matt in the thicket. I think that might have been the tightest trail you've ever been on in terms of branches and flora.
I would venture to say that anybody that would dare call Bertha a pavement princess only has to look at the sides
footage.
of the truck. No, just at the sides of the truck for the pinstriping that now exists on that.
That sounds about right.
Scars.
Yeah.
Well,
But it was great, and it was the first, and we talked about this in one of the previous videos, Sean. It was the first time that the rig had been out since being fully armored.
It's true. You had the bumper.
It had the bumper all the way back to the fuel tank.
You had all the skids. I don't think you had the fuel tank skid yet, though. That was the only thing you
I
didn't
had
have.
it, but it wasn't installed.
Right.
But everything else, vital component back except the fuel tank was armored, which was something of a concern after Whiskey Creek. Rougher trails, Whiskey Creek, not apparently. Recent Whiskey Creek was the trails weren't so bad from what I'd heard.
No, the harder route was a little more interesting, but mostly because of waterfalls.
It had some pretty rough spots in it.
Yeah.
But definitely the increased approach angle on the front of the Tundra helped
Oh, I'm
out
sure.
a lot, and in the confidence of what I say, a full size rig, right? Because all Tundras are not created equal.
No, they're not. You're right.
And for those
Well,
who don't know, I have a 2021, so that's what, late the last year of the second gen, so the same size as the current gen. They're a large vehicle.
Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, I think the JK is considerably narrower than the Tundra.
Oh, for sure.
And
Everything
we
that
were
was in our
dragging,
convoy was
both sides.
considerably narrower.
We were dragging
The only
both
thing
sides.
The only thing that JK has going for it is the stance of the tires, which is a little bit wider. It might be almost on par with the width of the truck, but I'm not sure. But especially with 35s now you have on it, so
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a tight trail. It's not like a bad trail by any means, and it's just enough of a, I don't know. I'd say that's a beginner trail personally, but I can see where folks be a little intimidated by the rock shelves, particularly at the end where we met. When we had that traffic jam when they were coming down, everyone's coming up,
Right.
and if it was wet, I could see where people would slip maybe. But
well, by the time I got there, it was wet from all the vehicles carrying.
oh, good point.
And dumping the water out from that water crossing.
That's true.
Again, I compare it to my trial by fire in Red River Gorge.
Yeah, nothing compared
Those
to that.
trails were much narrower, and not narrower with fauna, but narrower with things that put dents and holes in vehicles.
Correct.
So it was definitely a difference. I would say those trails, the damaging aspects were much further away. Now, again, the tree branches and all that stuff was pretty narrow for sure.
Yeah, but
Other than that, it was
pinstriping.
Right. Well, again, I think you had called out on the radio when we were coming up out of that creek bed where the traffic jam was.
Yeah.
You had mentioned coming to spot, and I just went. I mean, it was not an issue with the increased approach angle.
Yep.
To get up and out.
And the good thing with that spot is it's not off camber, so you can't really get in much trouble there, but you could definitely get hung up.
Yeah, well, there was kind of some steps in a way up that, but from a width standpoint, I don't think it was too bad.
No, honestly, the worst thing was having the vehicle on the left there, trying to get around that vehicle. That would be why I said anything about a spot, because otherwise I wouldn't have worried.
By the time I was coming down, they got out of the way.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
put it that way. So
yeah,
I mean, it was one of those.
They saw
things,
you, like, oh,
yeah, well, I think there was a Gladiator and a Forerunner, I think, was it?
There was a few. Gladiator was up front.
Group, yeah, there was
it was like 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. Like a few Jeeps. The Jeeps, by the time I went through, they were fully encompassed in the trees. Like they were out of the way. So, I don't know if you even saw them because we were moving pretty quick by that point. So,
well, somebody probably had told them that Matt was bringing a freight train through. So,
well,
choo-choo. It does kind of surprise me though with those trails that there hasn't been some kind of an effort to make them one way, and maybe that's a neophyte statement that I'm making there. But some of those trails, like I think about Pumpkin and Spas down in Red River Gorge, why would they not make them one way? Because there's a lot of those areas that there's just no way in hell you're getting.
I mean,
there.
To be honest, the easier way to run them is backwards. It's going up. It's going down the hill on Pumpkin and down the hill on Spas, because you're not fighting gravity in that situation. So, and I would say the majority of folks do run them uphill just because they want more of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But we've run into instances where we're running into people coming up or going down, whichever way we're going. But I don't know. It hasn't been really much of an issue because there is enough areas to pull off. It's just there's a couple key spots that are really bad. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those deals where I think you need to almost have a guy up front that's about, I don't know, 3 or 4 car lengths ahead just to make sure no one's coming. It's part of the reason why I run my lights on the front and I have them strobe so people can see me coming.
Mm-hmm.
More than anything, so they can figure out, oh, I'm in a spot, and if I go any further I won't be able to get over. it's more. It's not my. It's not for. It's not for safety. It's more for just for notifying people ahead of me, really, more than anything. But I don't know. Yeah, you're right. And there are sections of the Daniel Boone that are one way only. Like it clearly defines it on the map. Like, do not go. Only go counterclockwise on this loop, or clockwise depending on what area you're in. But just depends. But well, not to get too sidetracked, but we finished that trail. I think it was Canaan Valley or Canaan Rim, something like that. Canaan Loop, that's it. Or Canaan. Sorry, it's Canaan, not Canaan. Canaan. I'll get lit up on that by residents of the area, I'm sure. But yeah, we finished that. I had Canyon Rim, or no, what was it? Canyon? No, it was another. The one we did on the first trip out there, Rob. You remember that? The one with the big washout and the fire tower at the end.
Yeah. I
can't remember what it was called.
Was.
Something Rim, I want to say. Canyon Rim, I want to say Canyon Rim Road.
Be.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything crazy other than that washout was the
That's
only.
where we had
really...
lunch at Fire Tower, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
Exactly. But that Canyon Rim Road was it. It only has the washout, and it really wasn't, in my opinion, worth it. Other than the fire tower at the end, and by the time we got done and it was raining, we saw the rain coming in. It really wasn't going to be worth it to go up that way, in my opinion. But we came back, got to see Awning City fall, literally.
That was classic.
Matt, were you there when that happened? Do you remember seeing that?
Which part again?
So day one, we came back to campground after the trails. If you're looking toward the main road from our campsite where we were,
yes.
So it means you're looking. The bathrooms are on the right. If you look past the bathroom, the next spot over, they had those gazebo.
Oh, the tent
easy,
city.
Yeah, easy up, Awning City, tent city. Remember whenever? You remember when the gust came, that squall line came through?
Oh
and
yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
Well, it also doesn't help that they had that big tarp across everything.
Yeah. Well, and it was tied to everything else.
Yeah, but they weren't staked.
Right. Well, I don't think it was staked enough. Right. I think
that's a possibility.
I think they were using.
They were on blacktop.
That's true.
Well, you can still. So I mean, every time I get a new piece of kit for cover, whether it's an attachment, it's part of the awning, whatever. Most of that stuff comes with, the 1/4-inch little chintzy rods, right? I've gone on Amazon, and they're basically like railroad spikes that have been ground to an edge. I mean, they're 1/2-inch thick rods that are 12 inches long. I drive those things down into the ground, and I'll put 4 or 5 of them on my awning. I mean, Sean and I had our awnings up during that squall line.
No issues.
They didn't move at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Rob has the big giant
screw in.
Oh yeah, you were ratchet gunning them down into the earth. Yeah, yours are even better, right? I mean, those things are nuts.
Yeah.
So, gravel, rocks, they don't care.
It doesn't matter. Well, I think those do really pretty good in sand too. Even if you're on a beach,
bigger ones.
They probably need to be a little bit wider, but not much.
No, the big ones hold really good in sand.
Do they? Oh, okay.
I mean, again, there's
used them up in the UP.
Oh, that's right. You got the chance to use them finally, I'm sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
There's a $15 piece of kit that can save you $100 and hundreds of dollars in damage.
Yeah, because that kit that I got was $20. I think it come with
sounds about right. I mean,
8, 10 of them. I mean, it's like 4 or 6 of each size.
Yeah, I mean, and for us, since we have power tools anyway, it just makes sense. I mean, it's just a Harbor Freight impact.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. But yeah, that was a good time. I'm trying to think what else happened that day. I mean, we were watching the football under the mega awning that we cobbled together of like 5 different awnings. We had my awning, Matt's awning off our trucks. Then we had the Kyle's Gazelle gazebo.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we had like your tarp, and I think Matt Rob and Mary's tarp was involved at some point. So it was.
I think at some point all of us were under.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
like when we were eating, we were.
Yeah, we had to be. I mean, it was
You couldn't be on the edge when we were venting the pool of water on the top.
No.
I think the same. I think Sherry got hit a couple times
Well,
by the discharge from the roof.
Was it Turner that took it down the back also?
yes, it was.
Yeah.
I think, or it might have been Chris too. I can't remember. Chris was wet. Chris has always looked wet. It's just
You step outside and you got soaked.
It was Creek. I swear, I looked at him like, "Where have you been? You're wet." Like, I was like, "What the heck?" But it's fine. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's what it is. But I am kind of sad that you both had to leave early, Matt, and I mean, you and Chris both had to leave. Like, Chris got one more day, but man, you missed the best parts. Unfortunately, came after, in my opinion. But it's just what it is.
Yeah, it's always difficult, and I run a parallel group. We've talked about that at length, and anytime you have these trips that span any kind of holiday, it always becomes a little more challenging.
Yeah.
To get away. I will say though that I came back and was with my family during that holiday time, and I said, guys, I don't know, this is great, but I'd rather still be out in West Virginia. So
well, I think I sent you the star photos, and you're like,
yeah, because I got robbed all nights for astrophotography.
Yep.
I got robbed. So
geez, Rob.
It is what it is. So,
but the awning is where that Matt was introduced to Magic Hot Dogs.
Oh, yes.
Listen, I've already seen enough of the reviews. People are very concerned about my concern and/or obsession with the special hot dogs.
Well, yeah, we'll get there later because that comes up more later. Yeah, that was day one basically, and then day two, well, we left and we had that run-in with the gas station lady.
Why give us trouble? We're spending $700 or $800 on fuel and snacks and goodies.
No,
you're gonna chase us out of a gas station.
We're gonna leave it where it is. It was stupid.
Smoking.
I'm just glad we got out of there when we did, because I don't know what was going down. Something was going down. I don't care anymore. And I'm sure they don't.
Traffic. Oh.
I'm gonna go back in that area and I'm gonna see a wanted poster of Rob.
We actually were talking about this yesterday. Wondering if a picture of my license plate is hanging on the counter in there.
That would be ridiculous, in my opinion, because all you did was, I don't even know if you touched the cone, honestly.
I nudged it.
Nudged. So then, and we're talking We're talking about a rubber cone. To be fair, a rubber cone that will not take damage from a tire.
Well, we had 10 rigs, and we all filled up. So, right there is several $100.
Right,
and all the snacks and stuff that was bought, and the one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the day before, and the day prior to that too, because we were there for 3 days. I mean, but my point, I was just like, I'm like, all right, let's just get rolling, because I don't want this to ruin a 10-day trip, day 2. So, but we rolled out of there, and then we get down, we get moving, and take a right on like a farm road, or kind of a backcountry road. And then all of a sudden we smelled brakes. We smelled brakes, and someone had issues. I think, was it you, Matt, that had issues? Yeah.
Well, first off, I think everyone
was smelling stuff.
I was going to bring this up as we were talking about our adventure inbound to Camp Day Zero. It was RPM management, gear management, brake management. And in the hills. And not only was I in the hills, but I was in the hills under load with a trailer that's, 3,500.
It wasn't just your brakes.
No,
it was everybody's brakes.
It was mine also.
So to the incident you're talking about, Sean, I picked up a stone.
It was a rock.
It was a rock in between the deflector behind behind the rotor. And thankfully, who was that actually?
I think it was Jake.
It was Jake. Yeah, Jake came up and he had me roll forward like 10 feet, and he was like, "You have a screwdriver." And he just stuck it in there and popped it out. Again, as someone relatively new. I mean, I've been doing the overlanding car camping thing now for 10 years for various things, but the longer distance trails and running country roads, Forest Service roads in these conditions, that's relatively new to me within a couple years. So something like as minor as that made a lot of sense to him, and I'm
Yes.
thinking, oh God, I've got
It,
something
it
majorly
will
wrong with my
sound
front
like
brakes.
you have lost a brake pad.
Oh God, it sounded horrible. It sounded
Well,
horrible.
To that note, Rob, remember when we were doing our drive-in movie thing? I had this weird resonance going on. Ended up finding it was my dust cover just rubbing against the rotor just ever so slightly so often. And
Was that
the
before
amount of
or after
noise
we changed them out in Fancy Kyle's driveway?
that was before, I think. No,
No, that was after because you was talking about you had just replaced all of that.
that's a good point.
Or
Yeah,
just
yeah,
went
because
through
I
all
just
that.
did it. So the problem was the driver's side dust cover was just so well. Let me back up. I had replaced my tie rod ends on one side, but not the other side, and it was a little bit longer on one side than the other, and that was pushing the dust cover slightly into the rotor. So all I had to do was pull it back, and it went away immediately. So
As someone who has a new tie rod tip,
yeah, but I at least told you to go OEM this time,
yeah,
which helps a lot. I didn't have the luxury at the time of the waiting. I broke mine literally on a Saturday in the middle of winter. Yeah, and I couldn't wait, so I had to get a new one. So
Well, when I re-geared mine, got it all put back together and drove it, and it was doing the same thing, and
yep,
bent one of the dust covers on it. But it was
yep,
weird because it was like yours. It was coming and going, and
yeah, but it's a weird. It's like it's
when you
almost so
wanted it to do it, it wouldn't. And when you
right.
thought
And then
it
the worst
was going to do it
part
again, it would do it.
is a weird ass sound because it's like someone's rubbing a wet glass rim.
Yeah.
It's odd, very odd sound. Like
I was thinking
that's
fingernails on a chalkboard, but
no, it literally does feel like like if someone's playing like glasses filled with water.
yeah,
Like it feels like someone's playing one of that arrangement. It's really weird. That's the best way I can describe it. But loud, very loud, and it's like it's almost deafening loud. Believe it or not, because it's resonating through the entire truck. Really weird, but yeah, we got through that. We popped it out, popped that rock out of your Tundra, and we went.
everybody. I mean, as soon as we stopped, though, you could smell
Oh yeah,
a blend
everybody.
of brake pads.
And it wasn't we haven't been that far. We maybe been driving half an hour at most.
Yeah,
It was
just
just
it wasn't
it was
very
so
long.
much hills, and the pavement and roads were wet, right?
Yep.
And so you're on one lane or 1.5 lane roads, and yeah, I mean, it was just
And I've been going to that area for probably 10 years, roughly. Not like overlanding the entire time, but that area, right? Because I know it's hilly, I know it's mountainous, I know it's all that. I am always using my transmission to slow myself down more than anything because I don't want to cook my brakes, especially on a 10-day trip. So I'm usually in second or third, depending on where we're at, how fast we're going. That tends to save a lot of brake pads and rotors. So,
after we cleared that rock is when I started doing that,
yeah,
especially
exactly.
with the trailer.
Yep. And it helps so much. And you can even with the trailer controller, you could use the trailer to slow you down just a little bit. I mean, you could just,
Correct.
yeah, I mean, that's probably a better option in some scenarios than running your brakes. So there's that. So, but yeah, so we rolled on and we kept we found that really cool gravel road through some farms. And we hit,
Shining.
what was it?
Through the Misty Mountains.
Yeah, it felt like freaking Middle Earth. Like,
Yeah.
it was kind of crazy.
It was creepy but cool at the same time.
That's
I
one of my
was-
favorite sets of pictures, and the drone footage of going through there.
We got lucky.
Just the way that the ambers were lighting up everything. It was great.
It was dark enough where you could really see it, really popped, but light enough where you could still capture almost everything from a photography and videography standpoint.
And maybe you can tag a picture
I'm
in
gonna,
the
yeah,
top corner here. Yeah.
If I have a picture of what we're talking about, I'm gonna definitely put it in.
You've got one. You've posted a couple of them.
Yeah, like I don't know if I have Awning City, but I have it. I have the
you've got
our mega. I got our mega awning, but I don't think I have the when the tent city fell.
You do
I
have
should
the
have had the
foggy
camera
road
ready.
one.
What was that, Rob?
You do have the foggy road one though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have footage, I have video footage. I'll put that up here. So, but yeah, that was awesome. We pretty uneventful after that though. We kind of kept rolling. Rain started coming in slowly. Then by the time we got to, we got to the camp, and I thought the gate was locked because it was closed. So I ran back, never found the host, and I finally got on someone with the radio and said
We went up and pushed the gate, and it was it was unlocked.
Yeah, so yeah, unfortunately, because they said, well, based on my reading, it's supposed to just be open, but based on what we found staying there, it's probably best it shows shut because we had a few visitors come through that thinking that you can camp up there for free. So yeah, that's what it is. But yeah, that was great. Honestly, that was probably my favorite site of the trip.
It would have just been nice if it had not been so wet.
Yeah, I agree.
Bored.
Yeah, at least the second night it didn't. But yeah, that first night, man, it was. I mean, we all drank to oblivion that night. I won't lie. I mean,
I will say, coming off of that mountain at 0400,
yeah,
was
was
an adventure.
Do we want to back up real quick and talk about your experience backing a trailer in?
Backing a trailer in driving rain where you couldn't see said trailer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the the propane tank on the trailer seemed to find its way into an intimate relationship with my driver's side taillight. So that was it was a little bit of a battle scar. I think there's a little piece of red paint still on the bumper area. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's we talk about the planning and the prep and thinking about what you're doing. And I shifted from having everything on the Tundra solo a couple years ago to having an off-road trailer that holds a very large fridge, holds all my power, holds the tent that used to be on the truck that's now on the trailer, with the concept that once I get to camp, the Tundra being so big and heavy, I shed a bunch of that weight when I get to a camp and I can drop it and do trails much lighter than I would be otherwise. Fast forward into this trip, it really got the gears turning on getting, a one person wedge for when I do go out and I don't have kids, wife, animals with us to be more maneuverable, especially.
Not to interject
No,
too
please.
much, but in the situation when you're with us, specifically the group, you're going to be solo for the most part, especially on the longer trips.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. So that's that's next on. I got two things on the list. It's a wedge tent and new wheels, because in doing some measurements, I found out that the offset of the wheels I have is not quite optimal. So I think I can increase the turning radius a little bit with some different wheels and tires. So there's some bucket list items coming up here in Q1 of 25 for sure.
Yeah.
Wheel offset won't change your turning radius much. It's
it's clearance.
It's
what
clearance
he's talking about.
on the body, and all of the wise and studious life of Toyota. For some reason, on the Tundras, they've got that body mount of the frame from the cabin into the backside of the front wheels, and it sticks out literally about that much.
I thought you were talking about the wheels on the trailer.
No. Wheels. Yeah, the wheels on the trailer don't matter.
Honestly,
Honestly,
that was not a good design. That was not a good design on Toyota's part.
No, so I think I believe I'm at a -16 and I need to go to a -25. I think is if I was looking at it.
So roughly 10 millimeters, which would be, or 10 centimeters. Centimeters or
millimeters? That would push you out farther, though, which would make it hit.
It would. However, it would might make them clear the rear and front a little bit better, depending on the angles.
I've got a whole notepad of notes and about 4 videos saved.
Yeah, it just depends. So.
Yeah, well, and there's something too about the tires. There was a tire measurement.
Oh yeah, your tires your tread width is a little wider than the one you're going to go to.
Yeah, I think it was about a 1/2 inch narrower.
Yeah, on the tread.
On the
not
tread.
the section width.
Correct,
but,
on the
yeah.
tread. So anyway, it's a it's a
Yeah.
story for another time.
Yeah, that's a
But
whole other gear
it's a
story.
whole
Yeah.
other story, but it again, it definitely got me thinking in terms of looking at it as a father of 2 kids, husband, you have the whole family with you
Yep.
versus going out solo. It's probably worth that investment in the one person rooftop tent, and really consolidating down to the rig. The trailer's great. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. I wish I had one.
it gives you so much flexibility, and if you've got that in your itinerary where you can get to camp, drop trailer, and hit the trails, think about how much weight you would drop off the taco.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Think about how much weight you drop off the Jeep, right? I mean, you're talking hundreds of
If
pounds.
I could do
Oh, yeah.
that personally, if
That's
I could
why
do that
I'm building
myself,
one. Yeah.
yeah, because I would probably drop. Honestly, I'd probably drop 500 pounds.
I would think minimum.
Easily. So,
Right.
um,
I mean, I'm thinking about, I mean, the fridge fully loaded is probably close to 100 pounds. The tent's a few hundred pounds. You start dropping
yep.
all the other associated gear. For me,
Yeah, the
power,
fridge is a big one for
batteries.
me
I
because the
know
fridge
my
is up
fridge is
high.
100 pounds.
Yeah, batteries, all that. Yeah, we have a similar size fridge. I mean, I think I have the 96 liter
Yeah, you and I
Dometic.
are
Yeah,
very
mine's
similar.
83. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, you
we're all
load that
three. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
you load that down with provisions for a week. I mean, you're 100 pounds easily. So it's I would say it's conservatively I drop 500 to 1,000 pounds of gear
Yep.
when I drop trailer, which makes a huge difference when the dry weight of my Tundra is over 7,000 pounds. So if you can
Exactly.
pick up 1,000 pounds, that's a huge deal. And for CG, again, that's for me as a Tundra guy. I mean, I feel like I'm always a little top heavy,
Yeah,
but
you're at least wide, so that helps a little bit, but not much.
it does. So again,
But
it's pluses and minuses,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pros and cons to everything.
right?
So, but yeah, so we got to camp and snookered heavily. Like,
So I'm
yeah,
thinking of shifting from the initial excitement to we're going to be out here. Well, you guys, I mean, I was out there for
right.
3.5 days. So my shift from excitement to survival was probably a little bit different. My
Yeah.
my survival was getting off the mountain in the dark and navigating with no cell phone signal. And apparently partially downloaded maps from the party the night before. I did not download all of
Oh
them.
no, it didn't fully
So
download.
it didn't fully download. And I don't think we ever
Ooh,
talked about this, but it took me
we
about
didn't.
2 hours to dead reckon in looking at state routes and knowing where I was generally and going, do I want to go north or do I want to go south?
Well,
And having to kind of and get back into small towns to get a little bit of service to then upload.
the good news and bad news, some depending on how you look at it, is there's usually only two ways you can go from that area.
Yes. I did see a lot of cool stuff though coming off that mountain. I mean, the
Oh,
2 hours
sure.
it took me to get out of that area to get back to relative civilization and then
You
start.
did you see Seneca Rocks?
Yeah.
Okay, so you went north.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
So it was. I mean, it was an adventure. And I
You
just
use
went with it.
Gaia, don't you, Matt?
I do.
So, like what I did before that trip, I highlighted the entire area for the entire route for the whole trip. Downloaded the offline maps, and then when we got back home, I deleted the download maps. That way, it saves your storage space and all that. But then you don't run into that issue with being 120 miles away from civilization and not knowing where you're going.
See, I thought I had downloaded them, but
That's the problem.
I was being master DJ in the Fancy Kyle Pavilion. You know,
Well, I do
and
them.
was more concerned with music and drink than apparently I was getting the rest of those maps.
That's
Which
fair.
you can ask Sean. I'm like one of the first people that speaks up and says, "Hey, do you have the route available?"
Then
And
in full
I'll go in
disclosure,
like a
Sean
week
did
before the
share that
trip.
with me. That was
Yeah,
not
I go
Sean's
in like a
fault.
week
He
before
did
the
share it
trip
with me.
and download everything.
So yeah, because I've run in the same situation. You do it once and you learn, right? It's one of those deals. But yeah, like I download so actually when I'm planning maps and stuff like that, I could be I mean, honestly, when I'm planning things, it's 6-7 months in advance a lot of times. well, actually, our Western trip, I've been planning that for 5 years.
Years.
So, yeah, exactly. So,
And you're still
but
changing it.
yeah, exactly. So, but my point is like when we have a date and we have a party involved, that's when I download the map, and I'll delete it when the route's done. Now, however, if it's a area like Red River Gorge where I know the area really, really well, sometime we go very often because we probably go legitimately probably every 2 months roughly, and on average, probably that's a conservative estimate, but on average, if you take the past 5 years, every 2 months, roughly. And those maps live rent free on my phone or in my tablet or whatever. They just don't get deleted. I do run, so I will say this: I do run a couple other apps that aren't as what you call it intensive in their storage requirements. That if I do come into a scenario where I need maps to get off somewhere, I will have them. Trails Off Road is pretty good because it's a small cache. It doesn't have satellite, doesn't have all the crazy stuff that Gaia does, but it has enough to get me off the mountain. So,
well, I figured. I mean, if I went north too far, I was in Pennsylvania. If I went east
or
too
Maryland,
far, I was in
yeah.
Virginia. And if I
Yeah.
went south too far, I was in North Carolina or Kentucky. So
You'll hit I-40 or
right. Yeah, I figured
exactly.
I took a bearing and went. That was it. So
exactly. Oh, the best part though of this entire day 2 or 3, whatever day this was, is you're texting your dad. He's doing the math. He's realizing, wait.
I was FaceTiming with them.
Still that story.
While I was stationary, not moving.
Right. And he's like,
let's start over.
Well, I thought it was me for a minute
because I was watching my meter and I was like, oh, it stopped all of a sudden. What the hell? And then but yeah, it was just funny. Your dad did the math, and he's like, wait a minute, yeah.
Well, he knew where I was, so my family, is originated relatively from that area. And my father camped in that area as a Boy Scout, in the 60s and 70s, right? Where there was no technology, there were no offline maps. It was a compass, a map, and you were with your Boy Scouts. That was it. And he goes, "Where are you at?" And I told him where I was at and shot him a ping, and he goes, "You have service up there?" And I said, "Thanks to Daddy Elon with Starlink." And that was, again, I mean, I have gone back and forth on doing a Starlink on my vehicle. I cannot sing the praises of that technology. Has changed what we do, and people from overlanders to van life to anybody really. That makes a huge difference when you're as off grid as we were in a lot of these areas. And yeah, I was able to FaceTime with my kids who are young enough to still want to talk to their dad on a daily basis. And then check in with my dad, who I think was actually watching my kids while I was gone.
Oh, that's fair.
So wait till Amazon gets theirs up, then the prices should.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait for Bezos to actually get a rocket up before I start investing in that.
Well, that high, but yeah, we won't throw shade yet.
Not yet.
But I will say that as a leader, as a group organizer, and as a trail lead, at least in not a lead, but more of an organizer, Starlink has been invaluable to me. So,
well, it's been great, and we've done. I think post West Virginia, we did 1 or 2 little things afterwards where Starlink was just fantastic. Just quick, 1 or 2 day getaways. And it's just a great asset. I mean, if it's grabbing maps or streaming music for the karaoke party tent or watching college football, regardless if you're disappointed or not with the outcome, but it's
Just for folks listening, this is December 1st for reference. So
I'm not saying team names.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying
I'm
anything
not
else.
saying
It's
anything
December
else.
1st.
Just if you're very
I
happy with the
any
results or
spoilers.
very disappointed.
Exactly. We'll put that as a reference.
So
No spoilers.
it's honestly a piece of kit that, as someone who's going out, I don't know, 6 to 10 times a year, I'm really contemplating,
yeah.
is it worth it? Because there's 2 or 3 places I go pretty consistently that have zero service. And it's,
Yep.
I've talked with another group of guys that I camp with about this. There's some diehards that love being disconnected. They love that concept. I don't disagree with that. I don't want to come to an event or go on a trip where I'm hanging out and we're doing our thing and I'm answering work emails. And
Yes.
unless it's planned that way. But
Yeah.
the ability to get up-to-date maps, the ability to, if you guys want to have some drinks, cook out and watch a football game, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right?
It's definitely something that needs to be. It's kind of an etiquette thing,
right? And it's one of those things. It's a criticism of state parks, national parks that I've been to all over Middle USA. I've been to the Gulf and I've been up in the UP, right?
Yep.
The state parks you can go to and still have a little bit of a connection versus certain state parks in certain states that have extremely limited connectivity. That can make a big difference if you've got family that needs to get in touch with you, children that need to get in touch with you,
Well, it's a huge
etc.
safety.
And yes, there's absolutely an argument for safety as well. That's something that we've talked about in our small group. If someone gets hurt doing something, which is unfortunately not out of the realm of possibility in this activity that we all participate in.
And honestly, when we're running a group trip, that's 100% why I run it, because it's always a backup. There's at least we have communication. There's something we can make where something work.
Right.
Well, and the good thing,
and I have
Starlink is, regardless of where you're at, within 2 or 3 minutes, you can have high speed internet.
Yes, and it works for cell.
There's an accident.
Exactly.
It's a critical situation. That couple of minutes versus somebody driving 30 minutes to get cell phone signal.
Right, and it's one of those things where I probably wouldn't do it for just me or just like 2 of us, but it's when you have more than 5 people that are dependent on, well, not dependent on me, but like we're all invested. We're all trying to, we're trying to be self-sufficient. 5 or more people just makes sense at that point. So, but I have my in range and stuff like that. So like more than often than not, that's the better option. But when you have a large group, it just makes sense to have that.
Well, that's been a debate for me because I've been looking at installing WeBoost on a few of my vehicles.
And if it's worth anything, I did that before Starlink. So
yeah, and we've talked about that.
If you have signal available.
Correct.
Well, and there's other issues along with it because it can jumble the data packets weirdly. So I've sent texts from, let me actually say this, Mammoth Cave, where my signal carrier is not great. I have Verizon, but I would send something to someone and they would say, then I would get garbage back. I would get like random characters in an SMS where
hieroglyphics.
It's jumbled. Well, yeah, it's jumbled. I mean, it just doesn't. The data can't translate because there's an issue somewhere between the WeBoost and the cell tower. So,
well, and you look at the price point of those two.
Yes.
Now there's differences in power requirements and setup costs, but not terribly different. I mean, I looked at the WeBoost setup.
Honestly, the WeBoost takes about 2 amps, and Starlink takes about 3 on average. So you're talking about 1 amp.
Right.
So, but the nice thing about WeBoost is it's just equipment. There's nothing else involved in terms of service. But I will say this: WeBoost out west makes way more sense because it's very flat. At least in the plains, it does. Once you get in the mountains, if you're on a high point, it's fine. But if you're in a valley,
well, and that's where I've struggled, is where we've camped at the floor of a valley.
Yep.
And you're hosed either way.
Correct.
And that's where I think with Starlink you can you can get a gap if you're
Yeah.
smart as
Clear
to
view of
where
the sky.
right, it'll work. Whereas WeBoost won't, unfortunately. Now, so I have a secondary vehicle that I use for work, right, which is a highway princess that just drives long distances.
Well, that's your work
WeBoost,
vehicle.
yeah,
That makes sense.
WeBoost makes sense for that scenario, but Starlink for the truck, that might make a little more sense.
Well, and also like West Virginia, Virginia, trees play a huge part in that also. Trees eat cell phone
Yeah,
signal. You're in a
when we
valley.
stayed at Seneca Shadows, yeah, when we stayed in Seneca Shadows, it didn't work because there's just too dense tree coverage.
Right. Well, I'm not talking about Starlink.
just
I'm
didn't-
talking about just cell phone.
Oh yeah, in general, yeah, it does not help.
Oh,
Any radio transmission does not help. Obviously, it impacts everything to a degree, but yeah. So that was day. Well, day. Hold on, that was day 3, I think. Yeah, no, that was